Diego Brando is the best and most perfect Jojo Husbando. He's a faultless and beautiful British lizard man. Anyone who disagrees has shit taste and should not be trusted.
So I want to talk about something that's more of a personal grievance than anything I see repeated a lot online. And that is the theory that Diego Brando does not possess the stand Scary Monsters. A lot of people hold this belief because of a video made by the YouTuber Medi entitled Diego Brando Stand Isn't Scary Monsters, where he discusses his theory that Diego Brando does not possess a stand in the base world, but rather he is in control of the Scary Monsters infection that he received from Ferdinand. And to his credit, Medi introduces a good amount of solid information supporting his theory, such as stands being both infectious and lasting after the user's death in Steel Ball Run. Another crucial factor that he presents is that the corpse parts allow you to control your transformation, at least to an extent, by reversing the effects of Scary Monster's infectious disease, as we can see with Johnny and Gyro reversing their transformations because of the corpse parts. While it is clear that the corpse parts do interact with Scary Monster's infectious disease, coming to the conclusion that possessing a corpse part allows you full control over your dinosaur capabilities raises some questions. After Johnny and Gyro are both infected, Johnny panics and wants to attack the dinosaur army head-on, but Gyro tells him not to. He then claims that the holy power of the corpse is fighting the infection, and that access to a corpse part would allow him to negate the transformation. While this is only Gyro's opinion, his plan does work out, and this bit of information is pretty much the only textual evidence of how Scary Monster's infectious disease works with corpse parts. This point is further supported as Johnny has to remove his left arm in order to turn back into a dinosaur, showing that he does not have control over the disease with the corpse part. He can only nullify the effects with it. This then raises the question, why did Diego experience the opposite of this, going from complete human to full dinosaur when he claimed the corpse eye? Well, the answer may shock you. The wiki was actually right. Sort of. And I mean, I say sort of for a couple of reasons. Primarily that in Medi's video, the wiki was actually wrong at that time. It had the once popular opinion that Diego inherited his stand from Ferdinand and only was able to use it with the left eye, which is incorrect, as I will explain later. I also say it's sort of right because there is a lot of room for speculation, and a lot of different conflicting theories do exist with valid arguments, so to call one true would require a lot of evidence as well as counter-evidence. And in my opinion, Wikipedia articles aren't best used for that. I think that they're best used for synopsis and sources, and in that regard, the Wikipedia article now does that job. The wiki article now reads that Diego Brando possesses Scary Monsters. Just that. It doesn't link it with the left eye, because we see later on that he is still able to use Scary Monsters once his left eye is removed by Funny Valentine. The first crucial issue with Medi's argument comes about at this point, as he says the only way you have control over your transformation is if you have a corpse part. Not only have we seen that Johnny is unable to control his transformation with his corpse part, we also see that Diego is still able to control his dinosaurs once he loses his left eye. Therefore, it makes no sense to say that Diego Brando needs the left eye. So if it's not the left eye giving him the powers, what is it? Is it just the latent Scary Monsters infectious disease? Well, that brings up some logical problems as we look at the Cannon City arc. While it is true that some stand effects do persist after death in Steel Ball Run, there is no evidence that Dr. Ferdinand's version of Scary Monsters does this, and in fact, it wouldn't make sense in the Cannon City arc. The entire Cannon City arc focused on how Diego's newfound dinosaur abilities and enhanced senses gave him a strategic edge that allowed him incredibly precise strategies, even anticipating where Gyro's horse would step on a branch and become fatigued seconds ahead of time. Johnny and Gyro had also been infected with the Scary Monster's infectious disease, and both possessed corpse parts at the time, and neither of them experienced any dino senses, any dino abilities, and never developed anything that could be called Scary Monsters. As we also saw earlier, When Johnny removed his left arm while Ferdinand was alive, he turned into a dinosaur, but later on when his left arm is removed, he does not turn back into a dinosaur. Also, Scary Monsters is a mind control stand. It's a stand where the user is operating the other people as units, as chess pieces basically, so it wouldn't make sense for it to persist after the consciousness of the user is gone. Also, if Ferdinand's Scary Monsters did persist, couldn't Diego have turned Gyro back into a dinosaur when Gyro had no corpse parts within him? He would still have Scary Monsters' infectious disease in him, just like Diego, and Diego was shown to have command over animals infected by Scary Monsters. Couldn't he have just done the same to Gyro? Chronologically, Gyro gave up his eye to Lucy in the Catch the Rainbow arc, where I would like to mention he fucking bodied Diego with a direct steel whop to the face, which was shortly followed by the In a Silent Way arc, where Gyro and Johnny fight Diego and Sandman. If Gyro lost control of Scary Monsters' infectious disease during that fight because of Diego, Johnny would have never learned how to harness the golden rotation, and he surely would have lost to Sandman. Now, I've mostly been making counter-arguments, but let's look at something that Mehdi did not mention in his video, and that is Diego's interaction with other stand users. It's made pretty clear at the beginning of the Catch the Rainbow arc that non-stand users cannot see stands. This is shown visually as Blackmore directly asks Lucy if she can see his mask, which is a part of his stand, and we see that she cannot. This shows us that non-physical stands are still invisible to regular people in this universe. However, Gyro does break this rule, but it can be argued that he still has a latent version of his stand that he never fully developed when he had the corpse eye, because he really only had it for 3 chapters. Also, the spin and stands are highly connected, as in the original universe with Hamon and Sands, as Araki mentioned after the Arizona Desert arc, that the steel balls actually got stronger after passing through the Devil's Palm. It's a small note, but it sort of foreshadows Ballbreaker in my opinion. With the knowledge that only stand users can see stands, we can look to multiple instances of Diego reacting to D4C, and even damaging D4C at one point. And also, right before this fight, he did have a stand call where he said, "Go, Scary Monsters." Unfortunately, Diego and Hot Pants are unable to defeat President Dojian in one of the closest and best fights in JoJo, even though they had complete knowledge of D4C's ability and actively tried to stop him from activating it. President Valentine ends up activating D4C and returning unharmed, leaving Base World Diego to die, believing he had defeated Valentine. In conclusion, I believe there is sufficient evidence to prove that Ferdinand's infection wears off when the user dies, and that all of the stand fights following Valentine's completion of the corpse solidify the fact that Diego does possess a stand named Scary Monsters. Now here's where things get interesting, as even death does not write Dio out of the plot, as we are introduced to a new Diego from an alternate dimension summoned by Valentine, and this alternate Diego possesses the stand Zawarudo. This raises a huge question that, if explored, could reveal more about how stand acquisition works. If Base World Diego has Scary Monsters, how can a Diego from an alternate world have Zawarudo? For that, we have to look to some very important details that we know about the corpse. Unfortunately, there is way too much to discuss on this topic, so I'm going to devote an entire video to follow up with a conclusive explanation of how stands work in the Steel Ball Run universe. Whew, this is going to be a big one. And finally, although I don't think it's valid to bring logic from Part 6, which took place in an entirely different universe than that of Part 7, perhaps Zawarudo is the form of the stand that is consistent with his universally constant soul that Poochie spoke of in Part 6, and that Mehdi discussed. But another thing that we know from Part 6 that seems to be consistent with this universe is that the method of acquiring one stand is contingent to the manifestation of that stand. And the stands manifested by the Holy Corpse are unique in that they seem to follow a certain pattern of manifestation. Until next time, thanks for watching, and be sure to smash that motherfucking like button!